Someone who has never been betrayed will struggle to fully understand loyalty. A heart that has never been broken will never reach the true depth of love. Meaning is born from contrast, and that is precisely why the soul chose this journey. Have you ever looked up at the sky and suddenly felt a quiet longing you couldn't name? As if you don't truly belong to this world? You may be living a full life, with family, work, and friends. Yet deep inside there remains an emptiness nothing seems able to fill. You smile, you speak, you play your role well. But when night falls, you feel like a stranger on your own planet. We often label this feeling as loneliness, stress, or passing emotion. But what if I told you it isn't random at all? What if it's a signal from your soul, reminding you of your true origin? A reminder that you are not just a body existing here, but part of something far greater. In this video, we'll go deeper into a story revealed by Edgar Cayce, one of the greatest hidden truths about human existence. Where does your soul come from? Why did you choose to come to Earth? And what is the true meaning behind the challenges you are facing right now? I believe that if you stay until the end, you will never see your life the same way again. If these words resonate with your heart, follow the channel so you don't miss the next reflections. This is a place where you may hear reminders from your own soul, and perhaps even rediscover the peace you've been searching for all along. There are nights when you sit quietly and ask yourself, who am I really? You see yourself living, working, loving, failing, succeeding, everything, repeating in an endless cycle. Yet, somewhere in your mind, there remains a nameless void, as if you've forgotten something deeply important, a secret your soul keeps whispering, trying to remind you. If we view life only as the operation of this physical body, everything begins to feel meaningless. You are born, you grow up, you work, and one day you leave this world, like a closed loop. But deep within, your soul knows the story doesn't end there. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, revealed that the human soul did not originate on Earth. We come from somewhere farther, broader, a source where light and consciousness are one. Try to imagine this. Before you had this body, you were not bones, blood, and skin. You were pure consciousness, a small ray of light within the infinite ocean of God. You were not limited by space or time. With a single thought, you could exist anywhere. With a single intention, you could create music that resonated through the universe, or paintings woven from the colors of emotion. This is not fantasy. This was once reality, and you can still feel echoes of it. When you stand before a breathtaking sunrise and your heart trembles, tears fall without knowing why. When music plays and each note touches something deep inside you, making you feel both lost and deeply at home. When you hold someone and feel a love so complete that nothing is missing. These are faint memories from the source, the place where you were once part of the creative universe itself. So the question becomes, why are we here now, in fragile bodies, experiencing pain, loss, and death? If we were already perfect light, why choose to enter this limited world? Cayce said it was the soul's choice. No one forced us. There was no punishment, no original sin. We chose this experience like cosmic travelers wanting to know what it feels like to have their wings clipped, so that one day, when the wings grow back, freedom would be understood on a deeper level. The soul chose to be human because only here, in the collisions of earthly life, can we learn what heaven cannot teach. Only by moving through darkness do we truly understand light. Only by tasting loss do we learn to cherish love. And only by facing limitations do we discover the real power sleeping within us. You can see this in your own life. There were moments you thought you would never recover from, yet you rose again, stronger, clearer, wiser. Without that pain, you would not have found the deeper version of yourself that exists today. That was the purpose your soul chose in advance, to grow through challenges. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall, cry, and stand up again. An adult could carry them, but then the child would never learn to walk. In the same way, your soul chose to experience pain on its own, not as punishment, but as education. Every scar is a lesson etched into the soul, reminding you that you are stronger and more eternal than you believe. When you feel lost or empty, remember, this is not a weakness. It is a reminder from your soul that you come from something vast. Do not see yourself as merely a body passing through days. You are part of the universe, moving through a purposeful experience. To learn and to grow. Each day, take a few quiet minutes. Close your eyes, breathe, and whisper within yourself, I remember that I am an immortal soul, experiencing life as a human. That single sentence can soften fear, ease loneliness, and help you find meaning in what you are facing. If the soul is already perfect and filled with light, why would it choose a life filled with suffering? That is the question that has puzzled generations. People once believed that humanity was cast down to earth because of original sin, but Cayce revealed a different truth. No one forced you to come here. You chose this. Imagine a master painter, someone who has spent a lifetime creating flawless paintings, never a single smear. One day he wonders, if I painted with trembling hands, would I still be able to see beauty? If I created something imperfect, would I learn something new in a realm where everything is already perfect? The soul carries the same curiosity. We want to know what it feels like to live within limits, so we can understand freedom more deeply. We want to experience separation, so that when we return, union is cherished even more. Freedom and free will are the greatest gifts God gave humanity. God could have created machines that always love, always worship, but love without choice has no meaning. Only when we can refuse does choosing love become sacred. And for freedom to be real, the universe must have two sides, light and darkness, union and separation, love and fear. Without contrasting choices, freedom is just a word. You can see this clearly in everyday life. Someone who has only known happiness does not truly understand happiness. Only after loss do they realize how precious today's smile is. Someone who has never been betrayed cannot fully understand loyalty. A heart that has never been broken will never reach the depth of love. Meaning is born from contrast, and that is why the soul chose this journey. In Cayce's readings, he said, Earth is like a school. We are not students being punished. We are volunteers who signed up for the hardest class. Because only here, amid challenge and suffering, can the soul refine compassion, patience, and hidden strength. You were not thrown into life as a cruel game. You entered it with the courage of one seeking true growth. There is a simple story. A father lets his child learn to ride a bicycle. He could hold the handlebars tightly so the child never falls. But instead, he lets go. The child falls, gets hurt, cries, even blames the father. Yet one day, that child rides freely, wind against their face, smiling brightly. If the father had never let go, that joy would never exist. God is the same. He lets us fall, not out of indifference, but because he trusts that we are strong enough to stand again. Only this way do we truly understand freedom. This changes how we see hardship. When you face difficulty, remember, it is not punishment. It is a lesson you chose in advance to discover a stronger version of yourself. You are not a victim. You are a brave student moving through the very class you once desired. Every decision and every action you take today is proof of free will, the most sacred power you possess. When you fall into hardship, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask instead, what is my soul asking me to learn from this experience? With that shift in perspective, suffering no longer feels meaningless. It becomes the raw material for growth. Write down the 3 most difficult events you've experienced in your life. Next to each one, write a lesson you learned from it. You will begin to see that no wound came to destroy you. They came to shape you into someone deeper. Long ago, long before human history was written, souls entering the material journey chose a land for their first experiment. That land was Atlantis. Atlantis was not just a mythical civilization that sank beneath the sea. It was humanity's collective memory of a time when spirit and matter once coexisted in harmony. Imagine Atlantis, unlike any society you know. Its people retained much of their spiritual power, so their bodies were not as dense as ours today. They were a strange fusion of light and matter. They could build cities through focused consciousness alone. They used crystals as conduits to channel and amplify energy. Vehicles required no engines, operating instead through harmony between the mind and Earth's rhythms. Medicine relied not on drugs, but on restoring the body to its original frequency, where illness simply dissolved. It sounds like a myth, but if the soul is light, creation through thought is not strange at all. We once lived this way. Atlantis was the first laboratory for merging invisible energy with the physical world. In the beginning, it was paradise. Souls saw life there as a game, a chance to create using new materials. They built, they sang, they understood that they were both human and divine. But over time, curiosity turned into desire. Some groups became deeply immersed in material experience, believing that control over matter was true power. Atlantis split into two paths. Those who remembered their spiritual purpose were called the Children of the Law of One. Those obsessed with material dominance were called the Children of Belial. One side sought harmony, the other sought control and possession. From there, paradise slowly turned into a prison. The story of Atlantis is a metaphor for every society. When power is used to create, it brings light. When abused for ambition, it produces darkness. The Atlanteans created hybrid beings, entities designed to serve, unable to resist, existing only to obey. They convinced themselves this was a better way to build society, that without resistance, there would be no suffering, no conflict. But in truth, they traded the soul's freedom for convenience and power. History is not just a lost legend. It reflects the present. Today, humanity creates tools that shape consciousness. Media, social networks, technologies that guide the mind without us realizing it. The shadow of Atlantis remains. It reminds us that when power is separated from love and respect for freedom, catastrophe is only a matter of time. What was truly frightening about Atlantis was not just its collapse, but its slow corruption. It began with ideas that sounded good: healing, support, peace-building. But gradually, the purpose distorted, and power became the reason for existence. Souls forgot they came to learn and experience, not to dominate. I share this not so you see Atlantis as a distant myth, but so you look at your life today. How many times have you chosen convenience over freedom? How many times have you stayed silent in the face of injustice to protect yourself? How many times have you let invisible forces steer your life, even when you knew it was wrong? That is when you live like the Atlanteans, forgetting you were born to be free. Atlantis is not just the past. It is a mirror of the present. Each time you let fear control you, follow external noise instead of your inner voice, you repeat an unfinished lesson. But just as awakened souls did in Atlantis, you always have the choice to return to the path of the Law of One, the path of love, respect for freedom, and sacred free will. Try spending a single day observing yourself. Before making any decision, pause and ask, is this choice coming from love or from fear? Am I expanding freedom or shrinking it? That simple question is enough to remind you why your soul came here. Not to be bound, but to learn how to love and live freely through every choice. Atlantis once stood as proof of the soul's creative brilliance, but it was also the first time humanity tasted the bitterness of imbalance. Power once used to heal and create was redirected toward domination. At first, the shift was so subtle that almost no one noticed. Some claimed mind control was for healing, for freeing others from fear. But over time, this justification became a mask for ambition. Atlantis did not fall overnight. It slipped gradually, until it was too late. This tragedy closely resembles modern life. We often justify compromise with good intentions. I'm doing this to protect those I love. I stay silent for the sake of peace. It's not, but over time, that silence feeds the darkness. Atlantis shows us this truth. Evil does not need to arrive loudly. It only needs to be tolerated little by little until it becomes a system. Atlantean society became layered by levels of control. Those who could manipulate the most consciousness rose highest in power. They created hybrid beings, stripping them of freedom, convincing themselves it was for harmony. They believed they were building a better world, without resistance, without chaos. But it was only a gilded prison. Cayce said that from this point, massive energy crystals, designed to function in purity, became unstable when used selfishly. Energy no longer resonated. It began to resist Earth itself. The planet responded like a living body rejecting imbalance. Warning signs appeared everywhere. The first catastrophe struck around 50 years later. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis wiped out 1/3 of Atlantis. Millions of souls perished, along with knowledge accumulated over thousands of years. Yet even in that loss, hope remained. Many survivors still remembered their spiritual origin, still understood that the disaster was the result of misused power. They were given a chance to correct their mistakes, but sadly, not enough were willing to change. Around 28 years later, the second catastrophe struck, this time far more devastating. Entire mountain ranges sank into the sea. The climate reversed. Warm regions turned into frozen wastelands. Life was wiped out on a massive scale. Yet the most painful loss was not material. It was that humanity became heavier, more identified with the body, and increasingly disconnected from the memory of the soul. With every catastrophe, the veil separating humanity from its source grew thicker. Then, around 12 years later, the final disaster arrived. That was the end of Atlantis. The energy crystals spiraled completely out of control and exploded, releasing power so immense that it shifted Earth's axis. Ocean currents changed. The climate transformed. Regions that once flourished were buried under ice. The North and South poles moved from their original positions. The entire continent sank to the ocean floor, leaving behind only faint fragments of memory preserved in the myths of many cultures. Cayce said this was not merely a geological disaster, it was a cosmic reset. When humanity sank too deeply into identification with matter, when they forgot their immortal nature, the universe was forced to draw a thick veil. From that moment on, souls could no longer move freely between the spiritual and material realms as before. To return, they now had to pass through two gates, birth and death. And in that moment, humanity experienced fear of death for the first time. If you have ever trembled at the thought of dying, if you have ever feared loss, that fear is a legacy of Atlantis. Before then, souls knew they were immortal. Death was like changing clothes. But after Atlantis fell, we forgot. We began to believe we were only this body, that this life was everything, and fear became humanity's shared illness. Yet remember, every tragedy carries meaning. If the veil had not been drawn, if souls had retained full power while driven by greed and selfishness, destruction would have gone far beyond Earth, into other dimensions as well. The veil we resent was, in truth, a form of protection. It slowed us down so we could learn our lessons. The story of Atlantis is not just history. It warns us that whenever power is used without love, we repeat the same path. Whenever we believe the end justifies the means, whenever we justify controlling others for the greater good, a part of Atlantis awakens within us. Atlantis teaches this lesson clearly. Power without love eventually destroys itself. When spiritual purpose is forgotten, life becomes a race for control. And the collapse is not only societal, it happens within the soul. Look at your life now. Are you trying to control someone because you believe it's for their own good? Are you remaining silent in the face of injustice because it feels safer? Place your hand on your heart and ask, am I acting from love or from fear? If the answer leans toward fear, have the courage to pause. One small conscious action is enough to break the Atlantean cycle and protect your soul's freedom. After Atlantis sank, a new era began, an age defined by the loss of humanity's most precious memory, the knowledge of its immortal origin. Before this, souls could step out of the body as easily as removing a garment with full awareness. After the catastrophe, that doorway closed. Birth and death became unavoidable markers. Between them, we were confined to the physical body, forgetting who we truly were. This was when humanity first felt the deep trembling called fear of death. Where once death felt like going home, it now felt like an abyss. People clung desperately to the body, to this brief life, believing nothing existed beyond it. And the stronger the attachment, the greater the fear. Every culture created stories to explain death, to soothe this anxiety. Yet most forgot the truth. Death is only a door. You can feel this inheritance within yourself. How many times have you panicked at the thought of your final day? How often have you lived with the fear of losing everything? This is not just personal emotion. It is humanity's collective memory after forgetting its immortal nature. Cayce called this cosmic amnesia. We forgot that we are souls experiencing matter and instead believed we were bodies trying to reach something distant called spirituality. From this forgetting, materialistic philosophies arose. Only what could be measured was considered real. Science acknowledged only the visible. Even religions, instead of reminding us of our immortal nature, often reinforce the idea that spirituality is something separate from daily life. Slowly, humanity lived like a people without roots, always lacking, always searching, never fulfilled. If you have ever felt an emptiness nothing could fill, that is the echo of disconnection, and that is why we constantly long for love, for safety, for a place to call home. At its core, every longing is homesickness for the soul's origin. Yet despite the veil, the soul never stopped whispering. When you cry before a majestic landscape, when a melody makes your body tremble, when you hold someone you love and suddenly feel whole, those are moments when soul memory briefly returns. We never truly forgot. We only fell asleep. Every profound experience in life reminds you that you are more than what the eyes can see. This amnesia, painful as it is, also protects us. If humanity still possessed full spiritual power while ruled by fear and greed, destruction would be far worse than Atlantis. The veil is a safety distance. It forces us to slow down, to learn step by step, to gradually remember who we truly are. No one is forgotten. Each soul is simply at a different stage on the journey home. Fear of death is not weakness. It is a shared inheritance. Understanding this allows you to stop blaming yourself, to stop running from it. Instead of fearing death, you can see it as a reminder. This life is an opportunity to learn, to experience, to integrate the lessons your soul chose. Practice a small habit each day. When you close your eyes, quietly say, "I am an immortal soul living in this body. I do not fear endings, because I have never truly been lost." Repeat it long enough, and life begins to feel lighter. Because what matters is not how long you live, but how you live. When humanity sank deeply into forgetfulness, when fear of death cast its shadow over everything, the universe needed a way to awaken memory. Cayce said the Creator did not abandon humanity. He sent a part of himself, not as an ordinary soul, but as a direct embodiment of divine consciousness, to reopen the bridge severed after Atlantis. That being was Jesus. What made Jesus different was not that he was chosen while others were not. It was that he never disconnected from the source. Where we allowed the veil to obscure memory, he did not. He entered a human body while remaining united with God. He did not come to learn, but to remind, not to find the way home, but to show that the way had never disappeared. Jesus prepared his entire life for this mission. Cayce said he studied in Egypt and India, absorbing the essence of many spiritual traditions, so that when he spoke, any soul could recognize the truth. He knew words alone were not enough. Humanity needed undeniable proof that death had no power over the soul. When he chose the path to the cross, it was not passive sacrifice. It was a fully conscious decision. By entering death publicly and violently, then returning in the body, he reopened the door closed for thousands of years. Resurrection was not merely a miracle. It was a declaration that death is an illusion. From that moment, humanity once again had living proof of the immortal soul. If Jesus' message could be reduced to one sentence, it would be this: remember who you truly are. Every parable, every miracle, every teaching pointed to that truth. He did not create a religion to be worshipped blindly. He showed that all are children of God, all carry divine light. We do not need to search outside ourselves. The source already lives in the heart. Yet after he left, human weakness transformed that message into doctrine, love into fear, liberation into rules. The bridge meant for freedom became blocked by walls of our own making. Still, if you listen closely, the essence of his message has never disappeared. It lives in every breath where you choose love over fear, in every tear shed when you forgive instead of resent. Most people have experienced this moment, facing great loss, believing they cannot go on, then discovering love still exists within them. In that moment, you understand Jesus' message. Love does not die. It transcends suffering and even death. That is the true nature of the soul. The bridge Jesus rebuilt is not somewhere else. It exists within you. Every time you choose love over fear, compassion over selfishness, forgiveness over hatred, you walk that bridge. You do not need a miracle. Your daily way of living is the miracle. Today, do one small act rooted in love. Call a friend you haven't spoken to in years. Thank someone you usually overlook, or forgive yourself for an old mistake. Do not underestimate these actions. They are stones that extend the bridge back to the source. If death is not the end, then this life is not the beginning. Cayce said reincarnation is not a prison. It is a refined learning system where each soul designs its own curriculum. You did not come here by accident. You chose your parents, your family, even your pain, like a student choosing the hardest course to grow. Some lives are for learning and developing talents. Some are for healing old wounds. Some souls return not for themselves, but to serve others. And some final lives complete remaining lessons before leaving the cycle. Each birth is a new chapter in a book you write yourself. Many fear that their life is filled only with suffering. But seen through the soul's eyes, hardship reveals hidden strength. Without loss, you cannot know deep love. Without betrayal, you cannot understand loyalty. Without hitting bottom, you cannot see the inner flame. Reincarnation is a classroom where only lived experience truly teaches. Cayce said, "No mistake is permanent. You may fall in this life, but you can heal in the next. No darkness is final. And most importantly, you can accelerate the process now. Every time you choose forgiveness over resentment, gratitude over blame, love over fear, you burn old karma and shorten the road home. No one reincarnates forever. The ultimate goal is not endless return, but remembering who you truly are. When you return to the source, you do not come back as a naive spark, but as a soul rich with wisdom and compassion. You bring treasure, not emptiness, to enrich the universe. You may wonder, which stage am I in? Is this my final life? The answer matters less than how you live today. Every choice now shapes your path forward. You may not know how many lives remain, but every step brings you closer to home. Reincarnation is not a burden. It is an opportunity. You are not a prisoner, but a willing student in the universe's greatest classroom. Each night before sleep, write one thing you learned that day. From joy or pain, nothing is insignificant. When life becomes a classroom, each day becomes evolution. Those pages will one day prove how far you've come on the journey home. We have traveled together, from the soul's cosmic origin, through Atlantis, through forgetting, through the bridge rebuilt by Jesus, and the true meaning of reincarnation. All of this is not to retell myth, but to remind you, your soul has never been lost. You did not come here to be punished. You came to learn, to grow, and to remember who you are. If at any moment something felt familiar, if your heart grew quiet, that was your soul whispering. Do not ignore it. Share your reflection in the comments. Your story may be the mirror someone else needs. And if you wish to continue toward peace and soul remembrance, follow the channel. This is a journey of awakening. No one has to walk alone.